Hello and welcome everyone to Miss Charlotte Astrology. My name is Charlotte. I'm a full-time working astrologer, and on this channel I analyze the astrological charts of public figures, and very often they are celebrities or royals or politicians, but today I will be analyzing the chart of someone who is infamous, notorious, and that is the elder of the two Menendez brothers, who you may or may not, but you may know as a couple of young men. They were 18 and 21 at the time, who murdered their parents in cold blood in the middle of the night in Beverly Hills. Their father was a music executive. Their mum was a stay-at-home wife, and there are reports and testimonies that both of these boys had been abused, sexually abused since childhood, and that was the motivation, the reason, the excuse, whatever word you want to give it. That was why this horrific murder occurred. So what I want to do is have a look at the brothers individually to try and understand why they did that. I will eventually do a synastry, which I'll post in members, so we can have a look at, who was the ringleader behind this, like what is the relationship between the brothers, and what's their chemistry. So I'll be looking at that. Before we dive into Lyle's chart, I want you guys to know I do have that YouTube members. It's a great way to financially support me if you really enjoy these videos. I'll be posting more on there. There's only one tier at the moment. It's still in development, and you can actually give me suggestions on what you would like to see, and videos you'd like me to do, different topics. And obviously I've got my North Node analysis series. That's the first installment in Cancer and Fourth House is in there, and I'm going to be making more. So yeah, many things to come. And I do 15-minute MP3 readings, full chart readings, synastries, which are recorded and sent to your email. And I also do 5-minute focused readings, which are also MP3 sent to your email. So yes, if you'd like to support me, that's the best way to do it. Otherwise, if you can't do that, please like, subscribe, comment, help me with this algorithm. I really appreciate it. I would love for this YouTube to be enough to properly financially support me. That's like the goal, so I won't have to rely on reading so much. I would really love to grow this YouTube. So thank you so much thus far on this YouTube journey. Now now that we're done with that, brought to you by my sponsor, me. Let's have a look at Lyle's chart. Okay, so Lyle is the elder of the two. He is, as you can see here, he is a Sun and Mercury in Capricorn, and he has his Venus in Sag, a Mars that is not well aspected at all in Pisces, which is not an easy Mars sign, and his moon is in Taurus. And then if I zoom out, you can see he's got several grand Earth trines, which tells me that he is very, not just money motivated, but very good at manifesting money. So had he not committed these crimes, and he like grew up to be somewhat of a respectable member of society, he probably would have been extremely successful. And if he manages to get out of prison, he might continue to do. He might do well with that. Like, he can't continue on something he never started. But I'm letting you guys know, if he can get out of prison, because he's still a relatively young person, like they're not elderly, not quite yet, he could do very well with this grand Earth trine. I think out of the two brothers, he'd be the one that talks the most. Yeah. But let's get into this. Let's dive into this grand trine since we're here, and then I'm going to start talking about that Mars, because the Mars is the thing that is the most unsettling part of this chart. Okay, so Sun, midheaven, Mercury in Capricorn. If he were to have a career, it would be in speaking or some kind of teaching. Otherwise, because it's Mercury, right? Many different things, having many different streams of income. It would definitely be a social job. Lots of, I feel like if he were to have a business, it would involve having a lot of lunch dates, a lot of brunches with, with with like a lot of mimosas in the middle of in the afternoon, in the middle of the day. He is a schmoozer, and he's very, very charming. Very likable guy, and seems very earnest as well. He seems very earnest, and I think a lot of the time he is. And with his moon, his moon is very well aspected to the sun. So when you have a trine between your sun and your moon, there is a nice energy between your outward self, like who you project yourself to be, especially in the realms of career, like his public facade, his public image, who he presents himself to be to the public, and who he is internally. There is a really nice energy here, and he is a little bit of a hedonist, and I think that's something that he was quite boastful about. Like, look at my nice car, look at my nice hair toupee. Wasn't he the one that was going bald? He's the two of the bit vain as well. But he probably that there's, from what I understand, that's also heavily influenced by his parents, because his parents shamed him for balding early. Anyway, but yeah, I think with this moon in Taurus, he's someone who finds comfort, or he can emotionally regulate when he is in a comfortable surrounding. The moon is exalted here. And it could indicate that the mother was also a bit of a hedonist, enjoyed the finer things in life. There could also be him perceiving his mother as quite superficial. Lilith is not too far away, not in a conjunction, but not too far away. And when I see the moon and Lilith together, there is a toxic mum, abused mum, a mum who's unhappy, and just a difficult relationship with the mother in general. Even though the moon in Taurus is exalted, this is not nice. He's also a first houser, so looking out for himself. Not to say that he doesn't have a compassionate bone in his body. He clearly does, because he loves his brother. I think he spent a lot of time trying to protect his brother. But when you're a first houser, you are very concerned with the self. It's very impulsive. It's the Aries house. So the moon is in a luxurious, hedonistic sign in the first house, which is impulsive. Me, right? And again, that is really nicely aspected to this Pluto and Uranus in the 6th house. That's not an easy placement. Pluto and Uranus in the 6th house, so he needs a lot of control over his environment. He does have part of Fortune in Virgo as well, and Jupiter along with all this. Is stellium in Virgo playing into the 6th house of everyday work and routine. So he should have, if he had grown up to not be a criminal, he would have definitely needed to he needed to have control over his environment, therefore a business. Because if you move outwards, if you scroll, if we zoom out, you'll see this really crazy, almost hostile 6th house is really nicely aspected to that Sun and Mercury on the midheaven, that moon in the 1st, having a lot of control over his environment, even though that environment is kind of crazy. No day is the same. This is definitely someone who needs a lot of exercise, I'll tell you that. Pluto in the 6th, while he needs a lot of control over his environment, he's also likely, at some point in his life, going to be a slave to the work. So, 6th houses can be workaholics. And while that can manifest as being control freaks and having a lot of control in their environment, it can go the other way as well, where the environment controls them. The boss controls them. And if you think about it now, his environment is very controlled because he's in prison. He's literally a prisoner. If he wasn't in prison, maybe if he didn't run a business, he would be a slave to whatever job or contract he would have to work under. So yeah, overall though, it's a nice trine. Even if he's enslaved, he'd still make a lot of money. And he did when he was enslaved by his father. he got money, which, I mean, I haven't seen too much, but I feel like money, him being given money, I don't want to call it compensation. He got money. He was being hurt by his father and he was receiving money from his father, which is definitely, I mean, we could argue that's sexual slavery, which Pluto in the sixth would make a lot of sense. But money really was important to him, but he was also enslaved by it in this relationship with his father. Now, that's the grand trine, and it's good and it's bad. That's what grand trines are. Just because, by the way, I just want to let you guys know, trines are great. They're really good, but they can also go real left. They can make you lazy, right? But it can also indicate like too much of something. It can also mean that you have a lack of control of something. It can mean you have a lot of, there's a lot of hedonism in your life, or it just depends where it is. But this is Earth, so it is very hedonistic. Yeah. Okay. So let's have a look at this Mars placement. Now, you guys know how I feel about a Mars in Pisces. That's the Marilyn Monroe Mars. Mars in Pisces, and it's not aspected nicely with anything. Mars is the planet of your will and desires, your phallus, right? It's literally like the male sexual organ. It's in the sign of sacrifice. It's in the same sign as Chiron, where you feel insecure, rejected, wounded, a wounded phallus. His sexuality was sacrificed. Not that it was a conscious decision by him, but he was put into a position where he had to sacrifice himself. Let's move out and just have a look at what's this aspecting. The moon square Mars. This guy has is it? I mean, I'm not a doctor, clearly. I'm just some person on the internet that analyzes charts, but it's a bit of an ADHD placement. Like, he has a lack of direction, even though he's got this great grand trine that I just spoke about, which can manifest a lot of money, and he's very motivated by money. He's abused up here, and he doesn't have a lot of direction. This is the most disempowered part of his chart, is here. He has nowhere to turn. All the money in the world. And he's running around just releasing his pain through hedonistic activities, potentially criminal behavior. Like, criminal behavior is like an outlet. Because they were doing other things. He and his brother would do it, we'll be polite here. He was naughty. He was going around town and he was like committing like theft, or he was defacing public property, things like that. Like, just criminal behavior, because he's got no release or relief point with this Mars. There's no constructive outlet for him to put his pain into. Mars in Pisces is a really painful placement, especially if it's not aspected well. Mars squares Venus. The phallus and the heart don't get along. Not easy, because they're both planets of desire. They govern your feminine, masculine desires. They don't get along. He lost friendships because of bad behavior. He might have even stolen from friends. Like, he's cheated people, because Mars square Venus can indicate the placements of someone who cheats. Listen, if you haven't cheated and you've got a Mars and Venus square, congratulations. Don't get upset with me. But it is notoriously a bit of a cheater placement, because the desires of your heart and the desires of your phallus are not well aligned. So you end up betraying yourself and others in order to get your kicks. So that's not easy. And Venus in the 8th house, it's a bit of he's in romantic relationships, where there's obsession there, or there's like forbidden, taboo relationships that is there. I don't know the history of his dating life, but I mean, Venus and Sag is a bit of a player. And I think Saturn trine Venus. Is he the Menendez brother that had? Is he the Menendez brother that had a wife? Did he is he the one that got married, or did they both get married? Because it seems with this Saturn trine Venus, over time as he matures, love gets better. It's just something that I've put out there. So if you know more about the Menendez brothers and what they did post conviction, please put it in the comments. But Saturn here at 6 degrees trining Venus looks good in love if he matures. Seventh house Neptune, also a lack of boundaries in relationships. Abuse in relationships. That makes a lot. Or he could also lack of boundaries. There could be abuse on both sides with that. It's not easy. There's also an attraction to like people that are forbidden from you, people that are out of reach. That placement in prison would not be easy. I don't know what's happened to him in prison. I can imagine it's not an easy placement. But if you are an inmate, a Neptune in the 7th, I don't even want to think about it. Poor guy. This North Node. So it's really interesting to note that at age 21, he had finished his nodal return. This is something that he had been thinking about for a while. I reckon around his nodal return, which was when he was 18, 19, 20, just before he committed the murders with his brother. Saturn here too. The abuse got so bad. North Node in Aries is, if we're going to go to the dark side, Aries is a selfish sign. Coming from an Aries myself, Aries is a selfish energy. It's the sign of the self. It's in the 12th house of imprisonment, of no boundaries, and Saturn is the father. A North Node with Saturn. They're not in a conjunction, but they are together. Something with the father, a selfish act that may involve the father, the law, the authority, will lead to the 12th house of imprisonment. Do you see? It's all here. And Saturn intercepted and Saturn in the 12th house indicates a father that is not present, or a father that fails you, or a system that fails you, or there's no structure. This kid has no structure. And as a result, he will have to pay for his crimes and also the crimes of the father. Because the North Node is Saturn, is you will get punished. You will get your karma. There are consequences for your behavior. Even if it was in response to an unjust situation, you still did the crime and you will do the time. The most unjustly thing here is that he's had to pay for the crimes of his father. His father, even though he was horribly murdered, didn't see it coming and really likely didn't feel any pain, didn't know who did it. Like, it's his father got off relatively scot-free. He didn't have to live with the shame of being outed as a predator. So this all fell on Lyle. He paid for his father's crimes. He's paid for his own crimes and the crimes of his father. We'll see how this goes. His nodal return, as you can see, it's ending in a few months. There's now discussion of maybe getting him and his brother out of prison, because they've done 35 years, which is more than what most people do for murder. So yeah, if they change, I don't know how they're going to do it, but if they do change it to manslaughter, the charge, or the whatever jargon you want to use, if they change it from murder to manslaughter, he might get out. But even if he does, he's going to have to live with what he did forever. He's never really going to be free of this. His life is ruined. That said, if you have this placement, please don't freak out. If you've got a North Node with Saturn in the 12th house, Doesn't mean your life is going to be ruined, and it doesn't mean you're going to do all the nasty things that this boy did, okay? Or that nasty things are going to happen to you in the way that happened to this boy. So please do not project onto this reading. This is very specific to Lyle, okay? So yeah, it's around his nodal return when he's 18, 19, 20 that I think he built up so much resentment towards his father. That's when the plan started to be pieced together. Now, when the North Node entered the sign of Pisces, where Mars is, remember Mars rules Aries, those plans started to get more solid. And when they both actually committed the crime, the North Node was in the early degrees of Aquarius. The North Node was actually in a conjunction with that Mars. Mars is war, Mars is action, Mars is a weapon. The North Node was sitting on it. Kaboom. It's explosive. So the North Node moving through Aries, then Pisces, and then eventually Aquarius was explosive. And of course, the North Node in Aquarius would have been his little brother's nodal return. The little brother at his nodal return at the age of 18, along with Lyle, murdered his parents. So yeah, it's like a clock, isn't it? The North Node is like one of the hands of a clock just moving around, like just moving around on this big clock. Pluto is in Capricorn. It's going to swing back into Aquarius very soon. Once it gets off Capricorn, we'll see. Maybe there'll be a way out for this guy. Even though he's in prison forever in his own mind and body, maybe physically he may be able to walk free if Pluto gets off of him. Yeah, interesting. He's got an interesting chart. I was looking at his father's placements. If you'd like me to do a reading on Kitty and Jose, the parents, let me know, because I did make the charts. Let me know if you'd like me to do individual readings or a synastry reading on both of them, and I can do that. I'm just putting it out there. From memory, Jose had a Mars in Cancer. And it's Mars in Cancer return right now. His Mars in Cancer return right now, which is really interesting, Jose. Jose had his Mars in Cancer in Lyle's 4th house of the home. So those in a synastry, those two together are explosive. If someone's Mars falls into your 4th house, it could be very passionate, it could be very sexual. Right? Very passionate and or sexual and or argumentative, violent household. It could be all of those things that can happen with that synastry. So that's interesting and horrifying. Anyway. Yeah, this man is very, very wounded and potentially very sexually confused after this experience. I do think that he plotted he's a cold hard Capricorn, right? Like he's got majority Earth placements. He's an Earth rising, an Earth moon, Earth sun, Earth Mercury, and this big trine. So money is very important to him. So killing his parents may have been it was likely money motivated, but I think it was also a vindictive act of revenge, which could be justified when one of your parents is a kiddie fiddler and fiddled with you, and the mother was an enabler. I have zero empathy or compassion for kiddie fiddlers. Zero. So even if this was money motivated, partially, it was just partially. He wanted to get rid of his dad and his mum. He wanted them to feel all the pain he felt. Like I said, this kid doesn't have a good outlet for his anger. A Mars in Pisces, taking abuse year after year after year, eventually he was going to pop. It's like shaking a soda bottle and opening it, right? That's what happened. It was explosive. Anyway, So we'll see what happens. I wish Lyle all the best. I wish Lyle all the best. I'm not saying what he did was right. I'm saying I understand. I'm not saying vindictiveness and revenge is right. I'm saying I understand. And there is no excuse for what he did. But still, he had a really freaking good reason. So, anyway. Think about it. How would you react to a kitty fiddler? All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in. In the next video, I'll be looking at the little brother, Eric. And I'll see you, in the next video. Remember to like, subscribe, comment. I've got my members if you'd like to join. And I've got my MP3 readings. Okay. See you in the next video. Bye.